What's up and welcome to the Sam Dracula channel, a Charlotte Hornets fan channel, and it's over. All right, season is done. The 21-22 season is done. It's over with. It's the off season for the Hornets. We had the exit interviews the last couple of days. We've seen the results of the play-in. Congratulations to the Hawks. Congratulations to the Nets. Congratulations to the Timberwolves. And most importantly, congratulations to the Pelicans. We get their pick. More on that later. But play-in, playoffs are set. And for the Hornets and us Hornets fans, I'm just left looking for what's next. So this video is about what's next. What's going to happen next? A lot of moving pieces here that could really shape the next few years. You know, despite the less than ideal, to put it nicely, outcome of the play-in, this team, season after season after season, off season after off season, has moved in a good direction. All right, there's plenty of room for improvement, but overall, there's been progression every year, and I don't see a reason that will change anytime soon. So there's gonna be incremental growth. Maybe there's an opportunity to make a big leap, but options are kind of limited because this and this can't happen again, man. You can't. This franchise has been through too much. This fan base has been through too much to go through what happened against the Hawks this year or the Pacers last year again, man. It's demoralizing. But there is a silver lining, and you know, the players and coaching staff all touched on it during the exit interview, some better than others. Let's talk about that now. All the exit videos are on the Hornets site. Go check them out. I'm not gonna play them here. Go check them out for yourself. You know, don't take my word for it. There's a lot of interesting insight and different attitude kind of reads based off all the different moving pieces, all the different players, and Borrego himself. Reading from the notes just from my phone, basically, Borrego talks about not wanting to let the play-in define the season and take away from what they accomplished this year. They did accomplish a lot in the regular season. The Hornets did in this individual season and over the course of the last 3 years. They've accomplished a lot in that time, and the issue is, how do you avoid getting embarrassed in on a big stage like that again? And the focus, he talks about internal growth. He kept saying the words internal growth, which is important, right? Because this team has a young core, and you can only do so much in the trade market and in free agency through the draft, right? But the biggest opportunity for this team to improve is from within, and it's because you're more in control of that, right? And so on one hand, you have LaMelo saying he's going to spend the summer, touching a ball every day and working on everything. Bridges talking about he's going to push himself past the point of exhaustion like he did last year to come back as a better player. We'll see if he does come back. More on that later. PJ talking about the need to improve defensively as an entire squad. Harold doesn't know if he's going to come back next year. He'd like to. Same with Isaiah Thomas. JT Thor, Book Knight, Kai Jones talked about the Greensboro experiences. So with Kai Jones, I don't know if it's media training or that's just him. He's excellent in these settings, and he said all the right things in this post-exit interview setting. So go check his out specifically. I highly recommend that one. He talks about the value of the G League, how he didn't want to do that at all. That wasn't the plan when he joined in. But when he got there, talking with guys like Jalen McDaniels who have been through it, embraced the situation, and his positive attitude rubbed off on guys like JT Thor and Book Knight as well. So go listen to the Kai Jones exit interview for sure, right? Top right there. It's good stuff. Regardless of how we got here, we're here, right? Best record since 2016. First round in the play-in elimination. A game that doesn't count technically, but definitely does count for the players, for us fans. It counted, and it was bad twice in a row. So where do we go from here? Well, the options are limited, like I mentioned before, because of the cap situation. The trade market is interesting. You're not always in control of that. From what I've seen and read, and just from my point of view, the priority this summer is keeping Miles Bridges here. Okay, whether that's signing him to a new deal or matching any deal that comes in for him, the number one priority for this team has to be keeping Miles here. It'll send the completely wrong message to the fan base if they let him go, right? For nothing. Okay, that's the key caveat. If they work out a sign and trade to get another piece here in Charlotte, fair play. Game's the game. It is what it is. But keeping Miles Bridges here should be the number one priority for this franchise as they look to continue to round out the roster. Because what's the point of drafting a guy in the late-ish lottery, developing him over 4 years and have him leave, right? We just saw Devontae dip, just saw Malik dip. Guys that come into the team, develop and leave, that doesn't feel good as a fan. And he talks about wanting to stay here, wanting to play here with LaMelo, wanting to play here with Terry Rozier. And it's up for the team. The team's got to make that happen. The squad has to make that happen. Front office has to make that happen. It's going to be difficult beyond that. Limited cap space, very limited cap space. But they do have a few options, the Hornets do. And let's talk about it. All right. This is what we have on hand, right? From a player point of view and an asset point of view. Because the Pelicans beat the Clippers, we get their draft pick. This is from the Devontae Graham deal that saw Wes Iwundu come to Charlotte and then waived. We had a protected first round pick from New Orleans, a lottery protected pick from New Orleans. They're not in the lottery. They're in the playoffs. That pick is ours. Salute to Devontae. Salute to Wes Iwundu. We barely knew you, but we got a first round draft pick, an extra one this year. And there's some question about our draft pick because we traded back into the first round last year. It was like top 18 protected, so that's not an issue for us. So we keep our pick. This is how that pick goes from this point on, by the way. This is the protected pick we sent to New York at the time to draft Kai Jones. Okay. Top 18 protected this year. That's what we're benefiting from. That's why we still have our pick this year. Next year, it's a top 16 protected. You know, if the Hornets finish somewhere between, have a pick somewhere between 1 and 16, it stays with us. Then it's lottery protected in 24 and 25. And after that point, if it doesn't convey, it becomes 2 twos. Now that pick that we've sent to New York is now in Atlanta, ironically. So we'll see what happens with that. But for now, we have 2 first round draft picks, 13, maybe, probably, most likely the 13th pick, and then definitely the 15th pick. Like pull up Tankathon, you know, like the draft simulator here. Like let's sim this a few times. So like 13. I think we have a 1% chance at the number 1 overall pick. And I could stand here and sit here all day clicking this button, and we're not moving. We're not moving out that 13th spot. So highly likely we pick 13th and then 15th when draft day comes, which could be viable for a few different reasons depending on what's available. So that's what this is here. The 13th and the 15th pick. Those are items in our war chest, right, as we go into the offseason. Mid-level exception is available as well. We'll see what happens with that. Hornets can spend up to $10 million on a guy to come in to fortify things. I think there's a really good chance this is used here in the center spot, but who knows? We'll have some cash to play with, according to Bobby Marks, somewhere between like around $6 million to send or receive in a trade to help the money work. This one, though, is an issue, which makes the trade market and the draft even more important. Not a lot of room to operate in the free agent market as far as signing guys outright. The mid-level exception, these draft picks, some of the guys I'm about to mention in a second, all these things will be more valuable, more realistic opportunities for this team to improve versus signing guys straight up through free agency, because we'll have next to no cap space. Plumlee's deal is partially guaranteed. Oubre's deal, partially guaranteed. You know, unless like Bridges leaves for nothing, he'll make like 16 to 18 maybe a year, somewhere around that, maybe 20 a year. I don't know. His performance against Atlanta, getting kicked out of the game like that, that's not something that's good entering our restricted free agency. It's not a lasting limit you want to leave in people's minds, right? Hayward, I don't think goes anywhere. I know people want to put him out of town. I get it. But I don't think it's realistic. Maybe next year when he has 1 more year left. I don't believe in the Westbrook stuff at all. It doesn't make sense to me. He has 2 more years, $30 million a year next year and the year after. Like, I don't think that's tradable unless we package these picks to like Oklahoma City just to send him out of town. I saw some reports about him wanting out. We'll see. I don't know. But Hayward, for all intents and purposes, he's not going anywhere. Cody Martin's a restricted free agent. Jalen McDaniels has a team option, I believe. Then you got the newest Hornets, Isaiah Thomas and Harrell, unrestricted free agents. Harrell, mentioned he'd like to come back. When IT says he wants to come back, I think he would come back if they offered it to him. I think Harold will have maybe more options to choose from this summer. So we'll see about that. Kuboka, Scotty Lewis, we didn't see a lot of them in the season. Obviously, they're on two-way deals most of the year in Greensboro, all the year in Greensboro. And when they were with Charlotte, they were in street clothes, with a rare exception with Kuboka. JT Thor, a lot of year in Greensboro, but he's a dude, when he was on the floor, showed some flashes of a promise, right? A guy with a crazy frame, crazy athleticism. He's got to put the pieces together. I think he can be a solid defender in the league, if not a solid defender, a good defender, and then a willing shooter. I think if he continues to work on his jumper in the summer, I think it'll be really nice, really good piece of the puzzle. Jalen McDaniels really took leaps defensively and offensively after bouncing back from that injury and just missing time in general. I'm happy with Jalen. Kelly Oubre, partially guaranteed deal next season. We'll see what happens with him. I think he's perfect trade bait if the Hornets want to flip him for something else. I mentioned Gordon Hayward already. Bridges, like I mentioned. PJ, I think, showed a lot of growth. For his sake, I hope he has some type of stability next year, right? He's in the last year of his rookie deal next season, and he's had 3 different roles on this team in different years. He's been good in all those roles, not like great or excellent in it, but like as a role player, as a guy who's been a starter, whatever you want from him. I think he hasn't let anybody down. I definitely think there's room for improvement there, but as a shooter, as a defender, with his athleticism, I think he has a solid place in this league and in this team. Kai Jones, barely saw him in the big team, but he said he's working on things in Greensboro. He's working on his body, working on his decision making. So I'm really curious to see how that plays out. I don't think it's fair to expect him to be ready to be a part of the rotation next season. We'll see though. I hope that's the case. Mason Plumlee, I know, I get it. I understand the criticism around Mason Plumlee. I get it. I'm not going to argue against it. He earned a ton of bonus points from me for swallowing his pride and switching his hands at the free throw line mid-season. He says he's going to continue to shoot left-handed. So we'll see what happens with that if he remains with Charlotte. Again, partially guaranteed deal with him. Harold, unrestricted free agent, like I mentioned. I don't think he comes back. I think he finds a deal someplace else and goes there. And then Nick Richards, we haven't seen a ton from him either, but I like his potential as a low rotation guy. You know, blocks, rebounds, dunks. Honestly, he says he's going to stay with his coaches all summer in Charlotte, focusing on that, you know, those key things, and just getting better at the things they need him to get better at. Like LaMelo, obviously LaMelo will be back. He'll be entering his 3rd year in the league, probably switching his numbers to his number 1. He said he's going to work on everything in the summer. He's going to touch a ball every day. We'll see. I believe him, but we'll see what happens next year with him, what he adds to his game. He's always been really vague about what he does. You just kind of wait to see it. And then when you see it, you see it. But like he lets his game do the talking, which I respect. Isaiah Thomas, unrestricted free agent. I wouldn't mind him coming back. Honestly, a full year IT, I'm here for it. Plus, I think it'll be a good deal money-wise. I doubt he will cost an arm and a leg to run it back next year. Terry had an okay year compared to last year, pretty much on par as last year. Not a great play-in at all. It's disappointing. You can see it in his face, in his voice. I'm a Terry believer. He's entering the 1st year of his new contract extension, so we'll see what happens with that. Cody Martin, you know, he's here just because to make things nice and even, by the way. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say he's like a shooting guard per se, but hey, it makes this work. But anyway, Cody took a massive leap from last year to this year. I respect it. You know, he's one of the poster children of the development system here between Charlotte and Greensboro and overall, right? Cody's entering restricted free agency. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I have a feeling in my stomach that a team's going to come in and just drop some guap on him, and he's out of here. Book and I talked about, and Borrego talked about it as well. He does work on his strength and shooting and decision making. I assume that would be his main priority this summer. I believe he can handle it. He has a ton of talent. There was no room for him in the rotation this year. There was no opportunity for him to get an extended run with the big team. So he had to spend a lot of time in Greensboro, which I'm sure he wasn't thrilled with, at least initially. But as part of being a pro, you got to adapt, right? I have high hopes for Book Night. Scotty Lewis, barely around, you know, 2-way player. signed a two-way deal, second round pick this season, like this past draft, and he's been a two-way guy ever since. So what's this team gonna look like next year? There's not gonna be a lot of cap space between, if nothing changes, having 2 first-round draft picks, paying Miles, paying Cody. There's not a lot of room, right? Like, we're gonna be over the cap, not hard cap, but we'll be over the cap. So it's gonna be interesting. You know, if they get rid of some of the partial deals, like Plumlee, like Oubre, if they decline options, they can get, without doing anything, if they just like defer everything they could possibly defer, the best the Hornets can do cap wise is $23 million. But then you have to still replenish your squad, and then you're just kind of in a worse situation overall. So I think most realistic scenario for this team to improve roster, like personnel wise, is through the trade market. All right. Maybe like, all right, Sam, who would you trade on this team? Here's who I would trade on this team. So these are the guys I would be willing to trade, right? Guys that I would have in the like pool for other teams to choose from when it comes to making a deal if I were in charge, right? You're not going to get a megastar with this set, but what you could get are 1 or 2 defensive minded players that can protect the perimeter and or protect the paint. And you make those 2 changes, this team can go up a notch. Terry and Hayward not here. I think their contracts are too crazy. It's not worth discussing. I don't think it happens. I'm not going to waste my time. Not going to waste your time. Melo, Bridges, there for obvious reasons, not trading them at all if I can avoid it. You know what I mean? There are only 2 guys on this team that I view as untouchable. Kuboka, Scotty Lewis removed because they're two-way guys. Harrell, Isaiah Thomas removed because they're unrestricted free agents. Kai Jones removed because I think his upside is too crazy. I think his upside's higher than Book Knight. And because they already invested, I got realistically 2 picks into Kai Jones, a future pick and the pick itself. I'm not willing to send him out of town quite yet. Book Knight is there with Cody Martin because we have him, and him. All these boys ain't playing. Tell that to JT and Book Knight, right? I think there's redundancies with Oubre and McDaniels. Oubre's contract is very tradable. Partnered with any combination of these guys or any of these picks could make something happen. Same thing with Book Knight and PJ. Mason can be put in a deal to make the money work. I don't know what kind of trade value Nick Richards has, but I think he has a skill set that other teams could deem usable if you need to sweeten up a deal to get something across the line. These are the guys that I would put in like a bucket to be like, hey, yo, what could we get for this? Like, I think we could pull off a Jakob deal, for instance, at the low end with some combination of this set, right? Whether it's a pick, PJ, Oubre, some combination of this could get something done. If not, for 1 deal, maybe 2. How does this team move to the next level? Internal growth and external help, right? Borrego's first season, 39 wins. Second year, 23 wins. This is the COVID year, right? Next year, no fans in the building, shortened season, 10 more wins than the previous year though. And then this year, 10 more wins than the previous year. 20 wins since 2019. That matters. It's not everything, but it matters. And I'm wondering how this team's going to continue to make the next leap. Can this team win 53 games and continue this trajectory? No, not as is. But if they make a few moves and iron out some inconsistencies, maybe. How many games did they throw away that they should have won, either by slow starts or not closing out against weaker opponents? Orlando, looking at you. Detroit, I'm looking at you. Imagine any of those games go the other way. This team is in a better position in the play-in. Maybe they avoid the play-in altogether. I need this team to smooth out the redundancies and truly address the major issues. The defense. This is the best offensive year the Hornets have ever seen. From a franchise point of view, never seen an offense like this ever. And it was wasted. The inconsistencies, the defensive issues, the defensive lapses carried us into the play-in and out of the play-in. And I don't want to do that again. I'm sure these players don't want to do that again. Staff doesn't want to do that again. I'm fairly confident that Michael Jordan doesn't like what's happening right now. I've never met the man, but I can make an educated guess that MJ isn't pleased with being eliminated and they're playing 2 years in a row in embarrassing fashion. But congratulations once again to New Orleans, to Atlanta, to Minnesota, and to Brooklyn. These are my thoughts of the offseason thus far, just to put a bow on it. Kind of screwed from a cap point of view. Got to keep Miles, got to keep Cody Martin. I say we leverage those draft picks and some of the redundancies from a roster point of view to improve, to like round out the roster better, was someone who could protect the paint and someone who is a defensive specialist on the perimeter. We do those two things, I think this team can continue the progress we've seen the last few years and enter a level that they haven't really been in this like Kupchak Borrego era, an era where they can be in the middle class of the Eastern Conference, not the upper class. I'm not talking Miami, Milwaukee, Brooklyn. I'm not talking that class. I'm talking the class below where Chicago and Toronto are living. We want to live in that neighborhood, all right? We want to be in that, moving to that part of the Eastern Conference. Right now, we're below that. We're below that tier. We want to move into the middle class, you know what I mean? Before we start living the high life with Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Philly, Miami, you know? Let's move up a notch to the Eastern Conference. So from there, we'll see what happens and see what we can maybe pull off. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for all your support. We finally got to 5,000 subscribers on the channel. It's amazing. Really cool milestone. 6K up next. Can we get there? Hopefully. We'll see. But yeah, the video is going to continue all off season long, and then the live streams will continue once season starts back up. But otherwise, I'm going to enjoy a break. And then when this Hornets news, when I have Hornets thing to talk about, I'll be back on the Sam Dracula channel to talk about it. But until next time, I've been Sam. You've been great. Peace.